Okay, I'm going to go over prepping and gluten-free and the combination of the two. Many of you may have some food allergies or just medical conditions where you can't have gluten. A lot of things to consider when looking at prepping from that standpoint. My wife is gluten free, can't have anything with gluten, and one of the things that we wanted to do is have a grain mill, and she could, grind her own flours and things from gluten-free type grains. And one of the items here you can see here is the Country Living grain mill, very popular in the prepping community. One of the things you can do if you are gluten-free, I don't know if many people are aware of this, is if you decide to order one of these, is contact the company, let them know, and when they test it, because they test all the grain mills, they will test it with rice, so it never sees any gluten. And that's a very good when you're looking into doing that type of product, because I mean this is not a cheap purchase. So this way, because I don't think you could ever clean out, if you put some regular grain through it, you would never be able to clean that out 100%. And this way you know 100% that it was tested with rice and it's never seen gluten. So that's a good thing. But some of the simpler things you can do, a lot of prepping long-term food storage are gluten-free anyways. So one of the cheapest things, and you've probably all seen the 5-gallon buckets, and I'll show you some examples of those, but do the 5-gallon bucket with Mylar pouch inside of there, fill it with rice, put an oxygen absorber, take a hair straightener, any sealing device, seal it. It will contract in the Mylar and seal it airtight, and then you put a lid on it. That way when you do decide you need it, you can still open and close it. And the oxygen absorber and the Mylar prevent from weevils and some, somewhere you don't want some insects or anything getting in there. But 50-pound bag is still pretty cheap at Sam's Club or Walmart or anything like that. And then you've got different types of beans. You can do beans and the same storage methods, and that will store very long term. Rice and beans stored in that manner will last 30 years or 30 plus years. So that's a consideration right there. Some of the easy methods though are, there is a lot of counter gluten-free products, and I can show you some of these right here. One of the bigger brands is Mountain House, freeze-dried meals. And if you've seen any of my Bug Out Bag series videos, if you haven't, these are freeze-dried, have a 25 plus year shelf life. All you need to do, you take the pouch, open it up, there's a Ziploc inside of there also, open it up, there's an oxygen absorber inside there, take out that oxygen absorber, pour boiling water inside of it, mix it up, seal the Ziploc, let it sit for a few minutes, and then you've got a meal that tastes just like regular food that you can store in your pantry for over 25 years. And you can see this one, it says it right there, GF, gluten-free. And this one, like I said, will last a long time, and it tastes good. This particular one is Mexican style adobe rice and chicken, but we found some others. This one was I'm trying to think of it, as a Bushka's Kitchen. It was kind of more of a boutique-y I did a search on some backpacking forums of like what are the best tasting gluten-free items, and Mountain House was probably the easiest to find. This Bushka's Kitchen was a little harder to find, but you can order from them. And this one, it's freeze-dried. And this particular one is unstuffed pepper. So you've got a savory classic Italian dish. It's got it says it's slow simmered San Marzano tomato sauce, espresso salted bison, bell peppers, green onions, and hearty quinoa. So, a little bit fancier, but same thing. It's sealed, same type of thing. You take out the oxygen absorber, put in hot water, and you've got a very good tasting meal. We found some oddball ones. We like to go to Sierra Trading Post and hit the bargain. The whole store is a bargain store, but they have, a lot of times they get some random stuff. And this one is chicken gumbo, gluten-free. It's made by, what is the company? Good to Go is the company brand. And it's another similar one, but this one is, yeah, chicken gumbo, New Orleans style gumbo, all, gluten-free. Our very first purchase was Augustin Farms, kind of like Mountain House. They sell, number 10 cans, freeze-dried. This particular one is cream of potato soup mix, and it's very big on there, gluten-free, gluten-free. This one's dated 2012, but at the time, back then, very hard to find. We ended up buying a case, a big, kit that came with a bunch of different items, but it was all Augustin Farms gluten-free. Currently, Augustin Farms specializes mostly now in just ingredients. So you can go there and get like, freeze-dried strawberries, freeze-dried chicken broth, but kind of like, they do still sell some mixes, but it's hard to find specific gluten-free items. They have a lot. You just have to look a little harder. They don't advertise it as gluten-free specifically. The next option is a roll your own, as they say. As you can see, we've got a chamber vac right here. This is the Avid Armor, and we have a freeze dryer. And when you're doing the freeze drying, I don't know if any of you have freeze dryers already, but it's kind of a big investment, but long term, it's actually very cost effective, especially if you have allergies or, dietary restrictions. So one of the things we did, when you first get your freeze dryer, you have to do a test cycle, and you're supposed to put bread in it. And the bread absorbs all the, whatever, the chemicals, I don't even want to say chemicals, but any of the leftover smells that were inside the freeze dryer that could transfer it into the taste. So they recommend running a whole cycle with some bread. And the bread, kind of like a sponge, just absorbs all the odors. So what we did is just got some gluten-free bread. A little bit more money, but at the same time, we know our machine is gluten-free freeze dryer. So it's one of those little steps you need to take, because you might have a neighbor that has a freeze dryer, and maybe they're like, hey, we'll freeze dry food for you. How do you know, what they've been putting in it? They could have been, doing biscuits and gravy, all kinds of pastas and dishes that have gluten in it, and you get some, and then maybe they don't clean it as well. And there's a little bit of cross-contamination, and then, 20 years down the line, apocalypse happens and you're breaking this food out and you get sick. It's kind of not really what you want. So, okay. In case anybody's wondering what this is, it's pre-cooked chicken breast, freeze-dried, diced, then freeze-dried, and then chamber vac sealed. And you get a lot. This is probably the equivalent of what you'd buy in a number 10 can, and it's shrunken down pretty small. And there's an oxygen absorber in there. It's chamber vac sealed, and it doesn't weigh very much. One of the other items, as you can see, is, if you can see over there, canned goods. If you do canning at home, pretty much vegetables, things like that are all in general. Learn how to can. You can do pressure canning, which we do also, and that is you can do meats. And sometimes you don't need to get into the long-term freeze-dried foods for like a quick soup or a stew or something like that. So we like to freeze dry like some sliced up, chunked up beef. When you put it in a stew, it's nice and tender. It's ready to go. It's a really good method for food prep, and it's a lot of these, exception of the chamber vac and the freeze drying, are pretty inexpensive, relatively inexpensive. Like a typical Mountain House meal is less than $10, and a lot of them are 2 servings for 2 people. So or 2 servings for 1 person, but you could have like 1 meal, 2 servings for you and your wife, or so if you're a family of 4. 2 pouches would feed 1 meal. A little confusing there, but, or if you're a big eater, 1 pouch, even though they're servings, it would be, 1 big meal for you. So, but you're planning ahead for uncertain times, and, generally, like, maybe this might only be your one meal of that day. So it's kind of a nice thing to have some variety, and just because it's gonna, you don't, beans and rice, as I explained earlier, is probably the cheapest and goes the furthest, but you need different things to add to it though too. So you may want to do some chicken into that rice, or some, you know, don't forget your seasoning, spices, and different things you're gonna mix into those to create, you know, your main meals. Rice and beans is good, but after, you know, eating that for a month, you're gonna wish for anything else to eat. So you want to look for a lot of different ingredients, and like I said, you just need to be careful about cross-contamination. And the safest way is do things yourself or buy from trusted companies. So hopefully this was helpful, and till next time. Thanks.